the fun things about race cars is that there's lots of things we can do to change the race car, to try to get a better performing car, including springs. So whenever we make a change to the race car, there's going to be trade-offs. So if we go back to like 5th grade science class, our change, in this case, we're going to talk about spring rates. That is our independent variable. That's what we change. And the outcomes that we get, and there are going to probably be a few different things that change, that is our dependent variable. So anytime I talk about changes, or anybody talks about changes, I think it's A, important to take it with a grain of salt, and B, important to consider that there are multiple things that are going to be impacted. A lot of times when we talk about spring rate changes, we're going to talk about weight transfer and load transfer. Our weight transfer is mostly determined by the weight of the vehicle, center of gravity, the track width, and the acceleration. And then our load transfer, that's things that we can impact with our spring. So we went testing last week with this race car, and that's a great chance to test some of those independent variables and see what the outcomes are. One of the areas that we worked on was the right rear of our race car and our static and dynamic load numbers. So I'm going to do a really quick, simple example. I'm going to use simple numbers to make it as easy as possible. So if I have on my right rear corner a 300 pound per inch Landrum spring and 400 pounds of static load, that means that statically my 300 pound spring is compressed about 1 1/3 inches. If I'm seeing 2 inches of travel on that corner, that means that I'm seeing my spring rate times 2. It's 300 times 2, that's 600, plus my static load, which is 400. That means that I'm seeing 1,000 pounds of load. If I want to take my static load up to 500 pounds, but I still want to maintain that 1,000 pound total load, or 2 inches of travel, I can make a spring rate change. So here is my initial math. Static load plus my rate times my travel gives me 1,000 pounds. I want to go to 500 pounds plus, I don't know what I want my new spring rate to be, so I'm going to call that X times 2 equals 1,000. How I'm going to figure out my new spring rate. Gives me X equals 250. 250 would be my new spring rate to maintain my total load at 2 inches of 1,000 pounds, increase my static load to 500 pounds. Now tell me in the comments, if I were to do this on my right rear corner, what would my trade-offs be?